Hello and welcome to another episode of the Goblin Ringleader podcast. I'm your host, Jack. Today we'll be going over a game that I did at the NRG on camera versus Izzet Wizards. Now, I will say that one of our hardest matchups is going to be any match where we have to play against a bolt and a player with a brain. And Andrei definitely is both of those. We're having a little pre-game talk right now while we wait for the go-ahead from the commentators to start. And so, yeah, we always have a good time. He usually plays Blutron, but Izzet Wizards is like the hot new deck out of MH3. You got Tameo, you got Galvanic Discharge. It's just the deck got a lot of really cool pieces, and Flame of Anor is a busted magic card right now. Being able to kill a Shieldred and draw 2 cards, absolutely amazing. So we do high roll. I take the play with a tapped Blood Crypt and I pass. My opponent leads off with a beautiful island and a beautiful Tameo. Untap, upkeep, draw. I'll play the Anti's Hobble and show him a Snoop. So it enters untapped. Cast the Snoop, and there's a Harbinger on top. These are the kind of games where you don't really have to think. Your deck kind of just gives you what you need, and you go, wow, thank you, Magic Gods. My opponent's going to go attack with Tameo. Get a clue. This will allow him to have a redraw on the future turn, so he can hold up removal, and if I don't go for the combo, he's able to just have a free redraw. Matron on top. Now I play the land, and I play the Harbinger. Now he has a decision to interact before it resolves or after it resolves with the trigger on the stack. And he elects to fetch now, shock, and cast a Dress Down. Izzet Wizards also plays, I think, 3 or 4 copies of Dress Down. Absolutely amazing card in this matchup. My entire deck is creatures with ETBs, and if you just get to go Stifle for 2 mana and a redraw, it's very, very good. Now, goes to hit, gets redraw, I attack for 2, and I pass my turn. Untaps so it keeps and draws. Has a hand full of removal. Just has to figure out how not to lose. Andrei doing some thinking. A legend with that facial hair. I wish mine would come in that cleanly. Elects to go for a Galvanic Discharge on the Snoop. Very smart. Doesn't give me the ability to flip the top card after I draw the Matron and potentially find another Harbinger. He has to be thinking in this position, okay, what makes me lose? And so he's just trying to keep himself from losing to random top decks at this point. Untap, attacks the Tameo to get a clue. Untaps, upkeep, draw. I play a second Snoop, and there's a Lord on top. Cast the Lord. It's amazing when Snoop gives you a redraw. It just gives you the ability to go, okay, well, I played this card, top card, oh, it's another card, and then I play it. So a Snoop essentially draws me cards, which is amazing because I play Rakdos. There's not a lot of card advantage in Rakdos, traditionally. So Lord on the stack, he's going to fetch for a red source. Elects for the shock over the mountain. And casts old-fashioned Lightning Bolt on the Snoop. Lightning Bolt's always good versus my deck. It kills everything that I have. But my opponent only has so many of them, so I have the option to just run them out into removal and hope that I play more Goblins than he does removal. And that he can't close the game fast enough to win. That's the hope. I have a lot of Goblins comes down to hoping. Because if your opponent has their busted draws, really your deck is just a bad modern deck. But if your opponent stumbles at all, then Goblins is a great deck to punish them. So we go to his turn, untap up, keep draw, ponders. When I first saw the card, I thought it was Brainstorm, but it's just ponder. Here he's going for the flip of the Tamiyo. You can tell because he has 2 mana up, and he has the ability to crack a clue. So he's trying to flip this Tamiyo so that it can shrink my board with its uptick. And he elects to not crack the clue. Instead, attacks with Tamiyo to get a clue. Oh, he does crack the clue. Okay. I thought this was a game where he had another ponder. Flips the Tamiyo. Tamiyo flips over with 2 loyalty counters. Upticks Tamiyo. Tamiyo goes to 4. Now whenever a creature I control attacks, it gets -1, -0 until the end of his next turn. I go fetch for basic mountain, play a matron. I have to do it like this because he plays cards like Dress Down and Stifle. Even though he's tapped out, I want to play it correct for the camera. We're going to get another Lord, and we're going to play a Lord. We're trying really hard to push damage here because I have the feeling that he has infinite cards in hand. And the second Lord will keep the resources. If he bolts like the first Lord, right, and then kills my other creatures, then it's really bad. But in this situation, I'm playing around double bolt for the most amount of card advantage because my hand right now has 2 lands. And the life totals have been updated, so my opponent is at 5 after that attack. I'm at 19. A lot of thinking in this match because decision trees are so important. Plays a new Tamiyo. Tamiyo's an 0-3 blocker with flying, which is perfect against my deck. Upticks. No, downticks. Goes to get the lightning bolt. And then I believe he hasn't played his land drop. Yep, so he plays his land. And now this is a very smart play from Andrei. He doesn't want me to draw a bunch of cards. So what he does is he passes. Hey, I'm recording a video. Hold up. I'm doing coverage for the channel.
We're going to boat. Tonight's fireworks at Delavan Lake if you want to come up.
Okay. I love you. Gotta talk to your dad when he walks in the room. He's not always going to be there. So you gotta take your time to talk to your father sometimes. Sorry for the interruption. The play is my opponent flashes in Dress Down before damage in combat, before blocks in combat, and then bolts both my lords. They don't have death triggers. Bounces with a 2-1, and then takes 1 damage, going to 2. Very clean line by Andrei. Very, very clean line. Upticks the Tamiyo. Now I am only punching through for 1 damage, and his Tamiyo can block it. So this is a very tough spot for me. I have 2 lands in my hand. So at this point, I'm hoping that my thinning is good enough. But I'm patient because I know that I play a mob and 4 sling gangs. So if I draw any of those cards, the game's great. I can feel that my opponent has a counterspell in his hand because he's had blue mana up the entire game, but he hasn't felt like he's needed it yet. And so he's going to bounce with my 1-2, or 1-1. Take the 0 from the matron. End of turn, he's going to Flame of Anor. He's going to kill the dude who deals damage and draw cards. Draws 2 cards. Sorry for the ad interruption. I'm watching this on Twitch. Now, the 2 cards does not flip the Tamiya, which is important. Goes to his turn and draws. Plays a fetch land. Upticks. Attacks, make another clue. So he has the option, if he wants here, to draw 3 cards on my end step if I don't do anything impactful. I'm looking at all these powerful goblins in my deck, and there's absolutely none of them that are in my hand. I'm like, okay, if I take all the lands out of my deck, eventually I'll draw not a land. At this point, I have 2 caverns in my hand. I'm sandbagging the cavern, hopefully, so that I can have the ability to play an uncounterable spell, surprise style. If he leaves up just 2 mana for counterspell and I play my cavern, he'll go, oh fuck. So unfortunately, I draw an Arid Mesa. Arid Mesa, just another land, another redraw. Now, same mentality as before. I'm just going to fetch in the end step, try to thin the deck, hope that I draw one of my Sling Gangs, because my opponent is at 2. If my Sling Gang resolves, I can kill him. Opponent attacks Tamiya, makes another clue. I fetch in the end step, go at 16, the last mountain. And we have both of our Blood Crypts as well, so fetch lands after this do nothing. Besides shuffled library. Draw. That is the Sling Gang. No, I was wrong. I got too excited. It's an Aether Vial, just another land. To push the aggression, I decide to attack with my Matron. 0 damage. Gotta send that message. We're playing red after all. Opponent casts the Flame of Anor. Or no. Cracks the clues. Draws a billion cards. Goes to his turn. Draws. Ponders. Stern Scolding on top, fetch land at the bottom. Draw Stern Scolding. Play Galvanic Discharge, kill the Matron, net 2 energy, goes to 3. Goes up on the Tamiya. Does not ult it. Attacks, makes a treasure. Moves to the end step. Discards it, fetch land, and passes. Vial goes to 1. I drew the Sling Gang, so I play the Cavern that I've been sandbagging for 3 turns. Play the Sling Gang uncounterable. He says counterspell. I go Cavern. And I go, I'm so sorry, but I saw you cast it. He's like, fuck. He goes, okay, I need to either kill the Sling Gang before the trigger resolves or dress down. But he has Sink into Stupor in his hand. So he can bounce the spell back to my hand. And then when I go to recast it, he can Stern Scolding it. But as is, I think he doesn't see the line, and so he lets the spell resolve and then dies. But that was a really close game. The fact that he was at 2 is what made it really tough, because even if he does counter those spells, then next turn I have a greater and greater probability of drawing goblins that are in my deck because I've thinned so much. So the changes that I've made recently is I added back the Squee Dubious Monarch because it's such a good card with your Horde Master. If you go Horde Master on 2, into Squee on 3, absolutely fun. Into Slingang on 4, absolutely phenomenal. I do not like it against interactive matchups because it always dies, but it's really good in the control matchups and the non-interactive matchups where you're just trying to race. Besides that, the list has stayed pretty much the same. The only flexes are the Dampening Sphere is a 3 of now instead of the Chalice. Chalice is specific to what meta you're trying to play in. So, like, if you're trying to spike Death Shadow, Burn, and like mono 1-drop deck central, right? Hammer time, then you play 3 Chalice. If you're trying to beat Amulet Titan, Storm, trying to think what else. Coffers. If you're trying to beat those kinds of decks, then you play 3 Dampening Spheres. And for this tournament, I felt like there was going to be a lot of Storm, so Dampening Sphere was what I wanted to have 3 of. But in this matchup specifically, I kind of wish that I had 3 Chalices because I really don't have them a lot versus this Izzet Wizards deck. I could bring in Leyline of the Void. It would stop the Tamiyo, and I could bring in the 2 Chalice, and I believe that's what I do. I cut my 4 vials, and I shave the I shave a Harbinger and a Squee because they have a bunch of bolts. The Squee's always going to die. And then I bring in 2 Chalice and 4 Land of the Void. And now this is the Izzet Wizards list. Izzet Control, Izzet Wizards. Very similar decks. I believe the difference is that he plays main deck Dressdown, and most decks are not doing that. You can invert polarity with Snapcaster Mage, which is amazing. Subtlety is like the main win con that I'm seeing though, besides Bolt Snap Bolt and Flip Tamiyo. Against me in the sideboard, Tidebinders definitely come in. Consign is okay, but you really don't want to be trying to like stifle my triggers and leave me with the creatures. Definitely the 2 Stern Scoldings. So I would say 2 Stern Scoldings and 2 Tidebinders. So that's 4 cards, and you're gonna cut 4 Counterspell. That's really easy. You don't need Counterspell in this matchup unless you want to take out Invert Polarity because it's a cancel, and cancel is sometimes worse. So if you cut 2 Invert Polarities, 2 Counterspells, I think that's pretty good. You still have... Oh, okay, I thought I saw a Spell Pierce in the main. No, it's a Spell Snare. I think besides that, this list is very good versus Goblins. You have the ability to have a repeated Stern Scolding. If I don't have Cavern, if I do have Cavern, you can have a repeated Bolt. Flame of Anor is turned on by every creature in your deck, so you can always kill something and draw 2. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. You cut 2 Forced Negation because that card's horrible, and 2 Invert Polarity for the 2 Tidebinders and the 2 Stern Scoldings. I feel like this is a very, very good matchup for Andrei. He has all of the decision points. He has all the removal. And I have to kind of just hope that I draw well, you know. Against removal, you hope to go to the top deck and that it's good enough. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But let me check. Make sure we still have 10 minutes. Due to the time constraint, I will speed up the match. Just so we can finish the match. We're both going to 6. I had an unkeepable hand, and I believe he said he had all lands, which is not what you want in this matchup, definitely. You want to have the ability to cast all your spells in time, and not have to worry about falling too far behind. I also am incentivized to look for a leyline. Because it's one of the best cards out of the sideboard. I don't find the leyline, but I have a good Cavern hand, so my spells are going to be uncounterable. And I'm just gonna keep grinding. Lead with a Skirk, he leads with a Tameo, attacks on turn 2 and passes with mana up. I cast an uncounterable Snoop in the stack. He's considering whether or not he wants to subtlety here. And I feel like he should. If you ever have the ability, yeah, so he draws, so he has a different pitch card. Pitches the counterspell. This is when subtlety looks really good because you're able to keep stuff that you don't want, that you want, and get rid of stuff that you don't want. Skirk attacks for 1, puts him at 16. He's like, is it too greedy to get a treasure here? Is the card worth it? Is the card worth the 1 damage? And he's like, yes, the card is worth the 1 damage because it can kill his creatures. Snoop is amazing. Snoop shows a Chalice on 1 that I would love to play versus him. I attack again for 1. So he goes to 14 after the fetch. Cracks the clue. Untap, upkeep, draw. Attacks, making a clue. Kills the Snoop and draws 2. It's pretty good. Flips the Tameo. Uptick, so my Skirk can't deal damage. I'm thinking, do I play the Chalice on 1 here? Or do I play a Harbinger to set up my draw next turn? I elect to go to the Harbinger route because mana of efficiency. If I get a 2-drop, or if I have a 2-drop in my hand or a 2-drop on top, then I can go this turn play a 3-drop, next turn play 2 2-drops. I think I grab a Lord. No, the best card to grab here is again going to be the Squee Dubious Monarch because I only have 3 mana. You know, I assume that the Skirk's going to die. So Squee is just a really good attacker here. But actually, when I'm thinking back, I should have just grabbed a, because I know I won't be hitting my land drop. I can just grab the Goblin that exiles his graveyard or is a land, and then I could play the Goblin if I'm okay with just being on 3 mana for another turn. I can exile his graveyard, which turns off his Tameo, or I can just shock it in and play the Sling Gang that I have in my hand. So I think this is a punt by me. I think I should have, instead of grabbing Squee and putting it on top, I should have grabbed the Boggart Trawler, and that would have given me more mana, more resources, and I wouldn't have been squeezed so tight in this game. Because yeah, I can bolt myself here to play another land. That would be awesome. Oh, it's a Leyline. I have a Leyline of the Void in my hand. So that would be amazing. I could go bolt land, play Leyline, and I think I don't play 2. But that would leave him with exactly the cards he has in his graveyard to deal with my stuff for the rest of the game. This is a very interesting line. I go cast Chalice I have 2 Goblins, right? Cast Chalice on 1. He Sink Into Stupors it back to my hand. And then I'm able to go sack Boggart, attack, sack Boggart Harbinger second main with the Mountain, recast Chalice on 1 second main. And he goes, that's pretty good. So I get the Chalice on 1 down. And I'm hoping that this turns off like half his deck. His outs are Sink into Stupor or Flame of Anor. Those are the exact cards that he needs. I cast the Squee, he Tashanas the trigger, so it doesn't make a token, loses all abilities. And now he's on the aggressive side because he gets to draw his deck, or half his deck. When you draw over 10 cards, it's essentially your deck. There's so many resources that you're putting in your hand, it's not even fair. Now, I do subtraction, he does addition. We arrive at the number at the exact same time, which is very ironic. Because that means I'm really bad at math. That triggers his other Tamiya, which flips it. Attacks for 3. I go attack with the squee. He goes tied up under the trigger, trade. He goes snap for no value. Uptick. 8. This is a 2-turn clock. Where did this come from? I play a sling gang. He says I have a subtlety. That's the game. All right, then we go to game 3. Very good match versus Andrei. Andrei is one of 2 brothers. They're both really good Magic players. They both play really fun decks. Shout out to Andrei. Shout out to, I believe his brother's name is Albert. They're gonna butcher me if I don't say it right, and I apologize. They're both amazing Magic players. His brother is a Goblins player who also beat me in this week. It was round 3, I believe, and yeah, losing to the he had some very cool birthing ritual tech, and it's always fun to see a different version of Goblins. So shout out to both of them for being brewers and having fun doing what they love. It's always nice to see friendly faces and people doing new and cool things in Modern. So uh, yeah, shout out to Nerd Rage Gaming for facilitating this awesome community. Uh, so game 3, I'm on the play. I'm really trying to figure out if I need to mulligan to a Leyline and a Chalice, or if I can just keep a playable hand. In this game, I decided to just keep a playable hand. I'm like, I can cast my spells. I think I have a Skirk, a Harbinger, a Kiki Jiki, and 3 lands, and one other card I didn't see. Oh, I'm flicking my cards so fast, and it's double speed. It really doesn't matter. We'll see them. But I think in hindsight, this hand was not good enough because my important spells end up being. Oh, and I have a Munitions Expert. So the hand is Skirk, Munitions Expert, Harbinger, Kiki Jiki, Anti-Solval, Basic Mountain, Bloodstain Mire, or Arid Mesa. And then turn 1, I draw the Leyline, that's just how it is sometimes. Attack for 1. Using Harbinger as a bad matron here. Plays basic land. Now, I lose this game to double subtlety. There's not really much you can do against subtlety sometimes. So I say, I'm going to take my turn off, put a card on top. I do not have a 4th land. I do have a 4th land. So I can just put my Sling Gang on top if I want it. I elect to put a Ringleader on top. Shout out to the name of the channel. Because I think I'm so far ahead here that the only thing that I need is to draw cards. I'm like, just give me more Goblins so I can throw them into his removal, and eventually I can win the race. Now, this card is specifically the worst card versus Dress Down, which I should have known because that Dress Down is what almost lost me game 1. But I'm just excited to play my Ringleader, and so I have tunnel vision here, I think, and I don't see that I'm going to be playing right into my opponent's cantrip. Oof. So he goes double Preordain. The first Preordain was Subtlety Galvanic and bottomed both of them. And then he drew a Stern Scolding. I'm super excited because I'm like, Ringleader. He's like, well, I have the Scolding. You don't have a Cavern. I'm like, oh, wow, that card's really good. Opponent plays Tamiyo. And he says, I'm looking for the 4th land. If I draw my 4th land, I win. And I'm like, oh, how do you win if you draw your 4th land? And then I realize